Okay, I'm back. I actually just got done making another pipe. This will be my, I think, 5th pipe I've made total. And I've learned several things throughout the process, and I've tried a couple different techniques. And I do feel like this one is probably the best one overall that I've made. So I wanted to kind of share some of the things I've learned, some of the tips that I found for anyone out there. The most popular wood you're going to want to use for a pipe is briarwood. And the first pipe that I made, I actually got it from a kit, and it provided a briarwood pre-cut that I was able to then hand carve into the pipe. And that pipe has sustained itself. It has held up. It's a good pipe. I've used it regularly. The problem is briarwood can be hard to get a hold of, and it's expensive, because it's a very dense hardwood and it only grows in a very specific region of the world, but it's most widely used for pipe smoking for a variety of reasons, which we're going to talk about. Now, what I started doing, just because it was cheaper and kind of fun, especially for practicing, is I would literally just get like blocks, big pieces of hardwood, like firewood, and I would just like pre-pilot holes, like you can see a drill there, and then I would cut it down with a wood saw and carve it from a block. In fact, if you go back and watch some of the other videos I made, you can probably see that process. Now that's a lot of fun, and you're literally starting from nothing. And that's how I actually made this pipe here, which was, I think, the second pipe I made. This was the same type of wood as this, which I believe is a birch wood. I can't remember actually, but it is a hardwood, but it's a much more porous hardwood. Now the problem with that, well, the good and the bad with that is this was a lot more fun to carve and work with. It was a lot easier to manipulate and shape in lots of ways. And in fact, the one I did after this, I actually went in and did a lot of like etching and carving in it to give it kind of like a stylistic look. But the problem I ran into with both of these pipes is these pipes are not going to hold up over time, especially if it's a pipe that you're regularly smoking. Now, in the case of the one where I did a lot of etching and carving and got really tight in with my woodworking, it started to split really bad. And at first it split at the base, and I was able to go in and use some wood filler and wood glue and kind of keep it. But then it actually, as I started heating it up, it started to actually split into the chamber. And that creates a problem. So now I still have it. I keep it just more as a decorative example. But these types of pipes will either split or they'll start to deteriorate. In fact, with this one, you see it didn't split totally, although it does on the bottom here. If you go back and watch the video, when I was cutting into the wood, there was already just a natural separation in the wood, which I filled in with the wood putty. But the inside's been fine, but you can't really see it in the video. But actually what's happening now inside is the inner chamber is actually starting to burn away. And when you actually go to light your tobacco and you start smoking it, if you smoke it heavily, it will actually start to catch on fire. It's not going to catch on fire like it's going to light your hand up in fire, but you'll start to notice that even some of the wood is actually sort of burning away a little bit. And so it's just not really going to be something that it's going to be long-term sustainable. I put this up to like maybe a step up above like an old school traditional corncob pipe. Now they make corncob pipes you can buy at the store. But back in the day, when you make a corncob pipe, it was just something you could do quick, with your pocket knife, carve it out, smoke something, and kind of discard it, because the corncob is not going to be sustainable. It's going to deteriorate with time. Well, this is a little bit of a step up from that. It's cool. It's fun to play with. You can smoke out of it, but it's not going to be something that you're going to be an everyday pipe that you can smoke out of all the time. It probably will start to burn a little bit inside, or even split over time, but it's still fun and it's cool to have. So what I did is I actually got online and I found a vendor who sells briarwood cuts, and they're obviously marketing these cuts to pipe carvers, because you can see how the pre-cut is already more or less shaped in somewhat of a pipe shape. So that's going to cut down on a lot of time for you, going from this to this, in terms of just the cutting. So good or bad depending on what you want to do. But obviously from there, this is, you can see how much work you're still going to have to do to sort of pick the style of the pipe and the way that you want it, finish it, and all that. So it's still going to be work. You obviously have no holes here, so you have to decide where you want to pilot your pipe and how you want to make it and all that kind of stuff. This is a great product. It obviously is more expensive. I think these are almost like $12 a cut, something like that, and plus you have to pay shipping costs. But a couple things I would say about it. Firstly, obviously being a much harder, much denser wood, it's a lot more difficult to manipulate and work with. You're going to have to be a lot more patient, but the end product is going to be a lot better. Not only is this a much sturdier product, I can feel just the density of it. There's a lot of other added benefits. So you can see here, I stained this with a shoe polish stain, a leather finish stain. So here's the brand that I use, and I use this because you want to use a fabric stain, a leather stain, because you want to be very careful what you're inhaling into a pipe, and so you also want it to be able to get air in and out. So you want the wood to be able to breathe. So you do want to be careful with the products you apply to the surface. Now, just as a caveat, you also don't want to apply this inside the chamber, okay? You want to always leave your chamber just being the wood, because that's the natural part of the pipe. That's what the tobacco is actually going to touch, and that's where you're going to be heating and smoking. So don't apply your stain or your finish into the chamber. Leave the chamber the natural wood, but you're going to want to stain it first. You're going to want to use a leather stain that is something that's more porous and allows for breathing. And then the finish that they recommend, from my research and have found to be good, is a natural wax finish. Wood finish. So I use a beeswax paste. I got that off Amazon. I think there's tons of different brands out there. This is a big jar, so it'll last you a long time. But it is a wood finish and a polish, and you can put a coat over the stain to help it not only look nicer and shinier, but to help hold the stain in. Now, what I'll say is, now look at my hands here. Okay, this is from holding this pipe. For whatever reason, with this type of wood, even though it was well sanded and finished and polished, it still seems the stain comes off your hand, onto your hands. Now, some of it's hot day out here, so I'm sweaty, so that's part of it. But you can imagine if you're holding this for a while and smoking on it, it will sometimes leave a little bit of a residue on your hand. Now, it washes right off, but suboptimal to say the least. And I think that's just partly because of the wood. Whereas with the briar pipe, I have it here. This is actually, it's a different color stain. I used a mahogany rather than a purple. But I have used this on other pipes, and then I have already applied the wax. Not only does it look way nicer, but it doesn't come off of my hand. So the briar wood, because of its density, seems to hold the stain better and hold the wax better, and it actually is a much better pipe for that reason. So I will say this, like I said, it's a lot more difficult to work with, but it's worth it. So I did want to take some time to actually show you some of the actual tools I use in the process, okay? So obviously you're gonna need some drill bits, because you're gonna have to pre-pilot these holes. So I'm gonna tell you what sizes I used. Normally, when I would do, first of all, you wanna pre-pilot your larger holes first, otherwise your wood will split. But normally when I would do the initial hole, so you wanna have, basically you're gonna have three holes. You're gonna have the chamber hole, you're gonna have the larger hole for the stem that holds your stem handle where you put your filter, and then you're going to have the tinier hole inside. You want that hole to be smaller because that's going to help build up the smoke, so that when you inhale it, it kind of comes through there and then hits inside. I used to use a 1/8 drill bit, but you can see it's not there anymore. It's split. I actually split. That's how dense the briar wood was, so I actually broke that. I ended up going up a step to the 9/16. It's not in here because I left it in there, but that ended up being the size I used, slightly larger, to get a hole in there first. And I used that to pilot all my holes. And then from there, when it actually came to the chamber, you're gonna wood bit. It's gonna have a self pre-pilot, but you're still gonna wanna pilot it with a smaller drill bit. And this is a, what does it say? 5/8, okay? So this is a 5/8 drill bit. And that's just about the right size to get you in there. You can see it's a little wider now, but that's because as you sand it out, you can kind of manipulate how wide you want it to be. I also, what I did is I took this and I kind of put it in like a regular pipe I already had. Right here, you see, and I drew I'll turn around. See, I just took a Sharpie marker and I put a Sharpie marker on there to kind of know how deep I want to go in. And then that was my guide, so that when I did finally drill into the wood, I didn't go too deep down. And you can see right there, that was a little helpful tool I found, so I'm not going too deep. I'm not splitting or going too far. And then from there, you're going to want to actually have a larger build drill bit for applying your, the pipe stem or the handle where you put your filter. And so this is actually a what size is this? It tells on there. This is a 3/8. Okay, 3/8 of an inch. So, and that actually goes right in there. You're still gonna want to pilot it beforehand. And then if you use that and you buy your stems, you can buy these on Amazon, you can buy packs of them however you want. This is designed to fit a 9mm paper filter. So any of the paper filters you buy, that's the 9mm. You can see it sharp there, you can read it. And what that'll do is that actually allows that to fit in there perfectly. See? So that's that drill bit, the 3/8, excuse me, is perfectly fit for a 9mm stem. And then you can put your filter in there if you smoke with a filter. You can also put your screen in here if you want to use a screen, however you want to do it. So overall, I would definitely say this briarwood is much better than the other hardwoods. I knew that would be the case. It's just, one, you're not going to be able to start from here if you really want to have fun. But sometimes you just want to have some of the work done for you. But again, you're still gonna have to pilot all your holes and do all your shaping, all your staining and all that kind of stuff. So still fun job. I probably, moving forward, will just stick to the briarwood because I do think it is a better option. Here again is the products. You have your leather stain. There's tons of brands out there, but this, oh, sorry, this is the one I was using. Some type of natural wax to keep that open. Remember, keep your chamber clear of those things. I do have a trick I can show you in another video, maybe the next one I make, where I've actually found a way you can pre-coat the chamber with a carbon layer so that you get a better initial smoke. Anytime you buy a pipe from a store, like a store-bought pipe like this, you're gonna see that there's like an inner black layer. It's like pre-treated essentially with like a carbon so that when you go to smoke it, it smokes it. But there's things you can do to that, or you don't have to. You can just start smoking it like this, and then as you use it, it'll build up that carbon layer. So it's kind of preference. But I just want to show you this pipe too, the store-bought ones that you can buy for 20, 30 bucks anywhere. You can see this has a lot of lacquer on it. They claim these are real wood. I don't know all the time what they're making these things out of. I mean, is it a block of wood? Is it particle board that they pressed? But yeah, they put this heavy lacquer on there, and that's so that it doesn't deteriorate with time. But it's the same principle if you're a musician, you have a guitar, right? A really nice guitar. If you buy a really high-end guitar that's all natural wood, you have to sustain the guitar in the proper temperature because it will warp. If it's in too high of a temperature, too low of a temperature, the wood actually takes on moisture or dries up. So these really high-end Taylor guitars and Martin guitars and stuff, the really good ones, a lot of times people keep them in humidor so they can maintain the pressure because it will warp the instrument, especially if there's tension on the strings. Now, obviously it's not as severe with a pipe, but a lot of your lower end guitars, they'll put a lacquer finish over the wood just so you're not dealing with all the issues with pressure and temperature and climate and stuff like that, because unless you're just a professional musician who's really committed to his guitars, you probably don't want to have a humidor in your house. Well, anyways, same idea with a pipe. You kind of put these lacquers on there, but what that means is it's not going to get the same amount of air flow into it, right? It's much solid, like you can drop it on the ground, it's going to last, but it's not going to have the same type of feel, let's drop that, same type of porousness that you're going to get out of a real wood pipe that you've hand cut yourself. And I have found it to be a much more enjoyable smoke. I did a video, which is my most popular video, interestingly, about organic tobacco versus inorganic or non-organic tobaccos, traditional tobaccos, and just kind of the nuances of the flavors and how it's a little bit of a richer smoke because it's a little bit more natural. A lot of tobacco, pretty much all tobacco, is very heavily treated with all kinds of things, besides adding flavor and things like that, and even increasing the nicotine levels to make it more addictive and whatever. So same thing with a natural pipe that you've made by hand. It does seem to be a cleaner smoke. It seems to be a better smoke from my experience. And it's also just a fun hobby. But yeah, you can get your drill bits. So there's those. If you're gonna need a hand drill. The other thing I'll say lastly is I have done things completely by hand. I just use files and sandpaper. That's arduous, but that can be fun. But obviously there are a lot of other things out there, like a Dremel tool, and that's also fun too. It's it's not as maybe as like elbow greasy man stuff when you're doing it by hand, but it's still fun. And actually, I end up using my Dremel tool to do this one, and I found that to be not only hugely helpful for getting a much more smoother finish and shaping. It just was easier to work with the briarwood because it is a very, like I said, a very dense wood, and it can be very arduous to try to work with that by hand. But again, it's all just personal preference and what you want to do. I try to do different things each time, but I would say this one so far, starting with the briarwood block, pre-piloting everything myself and cutting it and shaping it myself, and then staining it and finishing it. And then I think this is probably going to end up being the nicest pipe I have, and I think it's going to last a very long time, probably much more longer than this one, which is already kind of starting to burn up a little bit inside and have some issues and splitting in some places, and it's going to be a much cleaner smoke, and it's just cooler because it's something you made yourself than your whatever store-bought brand that you got. So hope that was helpful. I hope you learned some stuff, and I'm sure I'll be back with another video.